Hello, and welcome to another episode of my Type 35 build. Yeah, I don't know if you've noticed, a thing or two has happened. You know how you see a thread sticking out of your sweater and you pull on it, and right about the time you think, wow, that thread is a lot longer than I was expecting, your sleeve falls off? Welcome to my sleeveless Type 35. Actually, I could pretend that this was all dramatic and make it out to be some catastrophic event, but in reality, this moment was inevitable. Because this is what a car looks like after you mock it up, but before you paint it. So, obviously, the body is off, and the floor pan's sitting right behind it. The front suspension has been completely stripped, the grille shell, radiator, hood, all removed, and in the case of the shell and radiator, placed in a secure location so they don't get damaged. Exhaust is off, brake and clutch plumbing is out, dash and firewall are still in place. Need to do some steering work, so covered for now to keep dust and sparks out of the wiring. Interior is out, boat tail off, rear suspension dismantled, fuel system removed. Comically, most of the car fits into 4 small totes. You believe that? A couple more totes and I could tote this whole car away in the trunk of another car. There's also some random parts on the floor. The rear belly pan, which you haven't got to see. It attaches to the passenger's floor pan and closes out the underside of the boat tail. It's upside down right now, but it's got a cutout for the exhaust hanger and for the rear end. Would have been nice to have had a completely enclosed pan, but the center section of the rear end just wasn't having it. I thought about a speed bulge rather than a cutout, but it looked kind of bulbous under the car. The diff cover just barely peeks out below the pan at ride height, so when assembled, a simple cutout looked the cleanest. Best to give the axle some clearance rather than letting it clearance things itself. You can also see on the passenger side of the boat tail, the section that was cut out to install the new aluminum quarter panels. And there's the gas tank laying down there too. Moving forward to the rear of the frame starts the welding that needs to be done. First, the rear cross members. I need to weld a stud onto each to hold the fuel line to the top plate and the brake line to the bottom plate. Then comes the rear axle, which has had all the major work already completed but is going to get stripped and cleaned and definitely get new brakes because, like, ew. Then there's more welding, this time in the passenger's compartment. Starting from the top and working down, I have to fully weld in the lap belt tabs to the upper seat frame, then weld the legs of the upper seat frame to the lower cross members, then weld the exhaust hanger bracket onto the driver's back cross member. Right now everything is just tacked in place because it'll be easier to weld the vertical joints with the chassis flipped up on its side. Sometimes I like to do things the easy way. And I find it a lot easier to flip the frame when it doesn't have an entire car attached to it. Next comes the real fun. So this is what happens when you let fiberglass sit against steel. The glass wicks moisture out of the air and rusts the chassis. Thankfully, it's just surface rust and a wire wheel will erase it quite expediently. But I don't want it to happen again, so before I even put the body on, I devised a plan to cover the outer rails in stainless steel. Sounds weird, but what I'm going to do is cut and drill some stainless sheet that'll get bonded to the outside of the rails with an automotive panel adhesive. I thought about welding the stainless on, but then this would just happen again under the stainless, so The panel bond will seal the surface, and the stainless will give the fiberglass something to rub up against that it can't hurt. All while being yet another one of those really cool details of the car that will be completely hidden from view. But I mentioned needing to do some work to the steering system. And since we're here, let's talk about that. So here's the steering wheel and the column, and they need to be welded to the steering box. Not directly, mind you, but the bits that join them all together need to be welded. Thus the purpose for the firewall and dash still being bolted to the car, so I can line everything up for welding. Let's see, one motor, sans exhaust system, and more welding. So the splash panels that cover the gap between the frame and the hood, under those are a set of plates that the hood hold down hardware attaches to. They're just tacked in for now, so they'll get all welded. And I think that's about the bulk of the work that needs to be done before the car gets reassembled. I mean, I'm sure I'm missing one or two things, but just little stuff like sanding, filling, priming, painting. I don't even know why I'm still standing here. I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but I got a car to finish.